So hi, everyone. Welcome to the NASW New Jersey and Delaware chapter monthly student event. My name is Razia Cooper, and I am the engagement coordinator at the chapter, and we are super excited to have you, some of our closest friends, here in the room for this amazing conversation that we're going to have today with none other than Harleny Vasquez. I don't know about any other social work student, but I know when I was a student not too long ago, I was super eager to find out how I can come into the profession and really just pack a punch. So I can't wait to have Harleny take us on this journey on how to really just use the tools that are already there for us freely so that we can elevate as students that are entering into the profession or as emerging social workers, or even if you're trying to do like a lateral switch, you've been doing clinical work and you're like, how do I pivot into something else? I know that Harleny's going to have amazing tools and gems for you guys. So welcome to our kickoff event for 2023. Super excited about that. And I'm going to introduce three people that you see their cameras are on. So we have Harleny Vasquez. She is a social worker, LMSW, and she's a phenomenal powerhouse in the profession. And we do have her two interns. So if you see Gabriella or Karina chiming in or answering questions in the chat, they are her interns, and I'm pretty sure that they're learning a wealth of knowledge on this topic. So Harleny, take it away.
Awesome. Sorry, I feel like my mascara got in my eye. So if I start tearing right now, all about being real, but I'm like, of course it's gonna happen right now. Anyways, alrighty, y'all. So I'm so excited to officially get started. As I said, for anyone who's coming in, no worries if your camera is off at this moment, but towards the end, once we get into Q&A, I would definitely appreciate, for cameras to, be turned on. And no worries if you're on the road, it's just more of like, to have a personable discussion and all those things. And of course, I'm going to be sharing lots and lots of information. Obviously, this is being recorded for you to be able to refer back if you need to. And then lastly, of course, as I, kick off the presentation, if there's any questions, if there's any thoughts, feel free to put in the chat or message, any of us privately, so like that towards the end when we get into Q&A, then we can address those questions. I want you all to really walk away with, again, knowing how to build a personal brand on LinkedIn, regardless if you're just entering your first semester or whether you're about to enter your last. All of these tools can be applicable to your entire social work career, regardless of what stage that you are in. So I'm excited to get started. Obviously, we'll start with some introduction. So let me share my screen, y'all. Give me one sec. Where's percent? Technology. All righty. So to give a little intro for those who don't know who I am, obviously, my name is Harleny Vasquez. I am a licensed social worker and the CEO of my business, Yourevolvedmind, where I am a social work career coach, workshop facilitator, and speaker. As a licensed social worker, I have worked in the field for 10 years, social services, clinical, a little bit of macro with all ages and various settings. And of course, through all of those roles, even though I went towards the clinical route, I went to Fordham, by the way, go Rams. So when I attended Fordham, I attended the clinical track. And at that time, years ago, my goal and my focus, I was going to be a medical social worker. And you'll all see where I'm going with this story because it's going to be applicable for anyone right now in current concentration and you have a vision, a mission, a dream. Obviously go with it, but I want everyone to understand that it's okay if your vision and your goals change, because all of this is going to be part of your personal brand that I'll get into in a little bit. But the reason why I also wanted to share that was my mission and vision back then, being a medical social worker. And even though I did my internship in like medical social work and had all of those experiences, unfortunately, once I graduated, I had a love and hate relationship with the licensure exam because it took me many times to pass, unfortunately. And not saying, I don't want to scare anybody, not saying that same thing is going to happen for you all. I just want to make sure that right now, when you all are in school, just pay attention to your learning style, pay attention to how you do, doing tests. For me, I always ignored that. Number one, I had test anxiety. And number two, my learning style. I learn best with like visual learning, auditory, and all those things. So if you are having awareness of your learning style, just take that into consideration, because most schools, of course, I'm not going to shame any school, but most schools, what they tend to do, whether you're entering your last semester, they kind of, crash course of a whole bunch of licensure prep. And that can be overwhelming if it doesn't, align with your current learning style. But going back to my story, because of that particular journey, unfortunately, I was not able to secure a hospital social work role due to my license, even though I landed interviews and all of those things. So because of those experiences and my extensive experience in the field, it led me to securing my first supervisor position after I graduated without having supervisory experience, because I marketed myself. And of course, so that exposure led me towards, recruiting and hiring, clinicians and social workers for the department, which was social services. And through those roles, really opened my eyes and it enhanced my, I'm a natural career cheerleader. Like, I'm known to be like that family member in the parties who's always talking about goals and all those things. So the reason why I'm also sharing this with you all is because, again, pay attention to the things that you're known for, whether it's your friends, your family members, colleagues. Like, pay attention to those unique skills, because all of that is part of your personal brand. So the reason why I briefly wanted to share my story, that after, I was a supervisor, for about 3 years. After that, I left social services, got into recruiting for a nonprofit. And of course, 4 years ago, I started my business, Yourevolvedmind. And in my 9 to 5 right now, I'm also a clinical recruiter for a mental health tech company. So the reason why I'm sharing with you all is because I want you all to know that there is no social work handbook. Even though right now you are in school for a particular concentration and you may have an ideal role in mind, just become aware that you're learning these tools, how to build rapport, how to have a relationship, how to assess, all of those things. I still have my operate through social work lens as a recruiter, but I just wanted to give you all a brief little, overview of my journey so far. Obviously, towards the end, I'll be able to answer any questions or concerns you may have, after the presentation. But now I also wanted to give you all an opportunity to meet my amazing social work interns, Gabriella and Karina, who will be introducing themselves and sharing a little bit about their journey. So Gabriella, Karina, kick it off.
You can go first,
Okay.
Gabby, since your picture's first.
I'll go first. Hi, everyone. Nice to virtually meet everybody. I hope your evening is going great. I just wanted to take a moment, type into chat if you have any experience with LinkedIn or any social media platforms, if you ever used it to network, or you don't have experience with it or want to learn more, please type into the chat. That'll be awesome. So my name is Gabriela Velez. My pronouns are she, her, and ella. I'm located in Brooklyn, New York. So that's where I am right now. I currently am enrolled in Adelphi University's online part-time MSW program, which is going pretty good. I should be graduating, I guess, in like 2024 around May, which is a little far from now, but it's okay. I'm almost there. I met Harleny through a workshop that she did during my residency. It's around 3 days that the residency goes on, and she was one of the presenters there at the workshop. And that's when I actually became exposed to personal branding, because before that, I just thought, maybe I'm going into micro field social work and see how that goes for me. But ever since then, I got really exposed to macro and just being able to network with people, because I never thought about that before. I always had my own limiting beliefs, and I always thought like, no, who am I? What's my voice going to do? Or who am I going to meet? Right. And those are thoughts that really come into our minds a lot. Like, who am I? What are my credentials? What is that going to do for me? And I was previously a teacher, so this was a career change for me. So there was a lot of limiting beliefs going on. But working with her, I really started to understand, just the power of networking and that exposure to personal branding and just learning from others, which was amazing. So thank you, Harleny. But prior to it, I just never knew. Like I said, I never would have thought that for me. Especially as a student and a future social worker, I never can see those two combined. I thought, social work was just basic, maybe hospital, school, or I never thought bigger than that until I started learning about her workshop. And from that workshop, that was when I followed her on LinkedIn and I created a LinkedIn. That was my first time because I never had experience with LinkedIn, and I followed her on Instagram. I was like, you know what? I'm gonna get to her. But once she opened up a spot for internships, I was like, oh my God, I'm gonna apply. And I thought I actually had my own limiting belief when I applied and I reached out to her. I was like, nah, she's not me, because what's my resume? Like, I just kept thinking, who am I? Like, those thoughts just kept coming to my head. But I was like, you know what? Let's just reach out. And my husband actually encouraged me as well. He was like, just reach out. You never know. And thank God she opened up a second spot for me. And yeah, like everything has just been going great from there. And I also made some changes influenced by her. And I have to say, ever since then, I did see connections grow. So yeah, it's just the power of networking, honestly.
Absolutely.
Sorry if I spoke too much, but yeah.
No, you're fine. Like, thank you so much for sharing these experiences. I'm pretty sure everyone here today is like, wow, I can't believe there's even obviously most schools should have macro placements, but it's just more along the lines of like entrepreneurship world and like kind of learning the ropes. So thank you so much for sharing your journey and, just sharing, your vision. And of course, obviously you're awesome. So thank you so much. Now we have Karina.
Hi, everyone. Good evening. My name is Karina Estrella in Spanish. I am a first-gen Latina on both sides. My mom never completed college. She started her associates, never finished. And my dad is actually an immigrant who lives in the Dominican Republic. So I would be the first one out of my parents to finish a college degree, and not only a college degree, but a master's degree. So that's amazing. And I carry it with a lot of pride, especially for my daughter, and just explaining how many years of school you can possibly go to. And just being a role model to those around me. My pronouns are she, her, and they, as it says on the slide. I am a social work student at Yeshiva University, the Westweiler School of Social Work. I am in my second year, my last semester. I could see graduation. I could feel the hat on my head. I'm visualizing it. It's so crazy how much I see it as if it's tomorrow. I met Harleny through a workshop that I went to because I was looking to revamp my resume. I wanted to leave my old job. I knew I had so much to bring to the table, being that I have my bachelor's in social work. So I've been in the field since 2015. And I was just ready to leave my job. And the workshop was on how to revamp your resume and your LinkedIn. And I joined, and I was able to land a new job making more than $20,000 more just with what I've learned from the workshop that I assisted. And Harleny was looking for an intern. I jumped at it, and it's been amazing, the experience that you can get both micro and macro, and seeing how much you can do as a social worker. You can be a supervisor, you can be in corporate, you can do clinical work, you can literally do anything. And it's such a diverse degree that I've just been pushing it on everybody that I know. I'm excited for everything that everyone is going to learn in this in this workshop. Please take notes. And yeah.
Yes. Oh my God. Thank you so much, for sharing, first gen. Woo woo. I forgot to mention again, y'all, I forget what I've done. Obviously, I'm a first gen too. I was also the first in my family to get my associates, bachelor's, and master's. Because you got to celebrate all the milestones. And thank you everyone as well for being here. As you're probably coming in, comment in the chat, where you are in your current student journey right now. Even if you're just starting in your first semester, I'm just so excited, to officially kick this workshop on personal branding, and let's do this. Alrighty, so what I want you all to do in this moment is just to take a moment to pause. If you're currently on the road, obviously still be on the road. I don't want you pausing and crashing, and God forbid. If you're currently home, if you're currently in a place where you can just, take a moment to pause, take a moment to close your eyes, just take a deep breath and really take all of the stuff that you have accomplished in your life so far. There is no such thing as a small win. Just like identify that I got my associates, old me, I would have never mentioned that. I would have been like, yeah, I just have my bachelor's. But over time, I embraced like, no, I went to community college. I'm embracing, that was my journey back then. And look where it led me to today. So and it doesn't have to be like education. It's just really about, embracing all of the wins, whether you secured a new job, whether you ended up working out, like whatever task, you set for yourself last year, this year, I just want you to start embracing all of those things. I want you also start thinking about all of your future goals. And if you're currently, again, in your first semester and you're like, I have no idea what I want to do, I have no idea what population or area of practice I want to work in, I want you all to know that it's okay. I know sometimes school tries to put you in a box and saying, you have to take these classes or you have to go towards this route. And I know at times it can be overwhelming. I just want you all to give yourself a little bit of grace. This is your degree, this is your investment, and best believe that there is no social work handbook. Of course, we have the code of ethics, but that's a different story. But at least when it comes to being able to create any success you desire in your social work degree, in your social work career, utilizing your social work degree. As I mentioned at the beginning of this workshop, for anyone who came late, my particular journey was at the beginning, I'm going to be a medical social worker. I was definitely stuck on that. And unfortunately, due to licensure, life happened and I ended up taking a different path. But I am so glad that happened. If not, I wouldn't be where I am today, right? Imagine that would have been my path that I was always meant to take. So I just want you all to, again, to give yourself a little pat on the back and just celebrate your success of where you are right now. And again, at the end of the day, you're in control. So another thing I want to mention, I'm going to officially start talking about, like personal branding and all those things. As I go through the presentation, again, if any questions, concerns, please put them in the chat. As I go through the presentation, I will not be paying attention to the chat, but of course, everyone else will. So if there's any additional questions, please put them there. And then when we get to Q&A at the end, we will address them. All righty. Okay, so let me move mine. Alrighty, so building your personal brand. So some of y'all know what personal brand is, and some of y'all are like, Harleny, what the heck is a personal brand? Well, I first want to tell you that your personal brand is literally a personal statement of who you are. It is something that's going to carry with you for the rest of your life. Regardless if you work in social work or not, everyone has a brand. You want to start thinking about, well, at least focusing right now, not where you want to be in 5 years or 10 years. As of today, you want to be able to start identifying what are my unique strengths? What are my skills? What do I want to be known for? What is your why? You all came into the social work field for a reason, whether it was that you wanted to give back to your community, whether it was that you wanted to implement a policy, whatever it was, you all came into this field for a reason. And I know once you graduate or you start networking, there's always going to be someone, whether it's a social worker or not, trying to dim your light. Unfortunately, the social work profession, there's a lot of stigma, as a lot of you may know, but I want you to try your best, of course, to be able to block out that noise. Because remember what I said at the beginning, it is your degree, it is your investment. No one is meant to understand your vision but you. Trust me, my family still thinks I'm a counselor. They were like, I'm like, I'm not a counselor. So at the end of the day, they know I have my degree and I'm doing what I got to do and that's it. But no one's meant to understand your vision. So it's like part of your personal brand. You want to start thinking about Again, like, what do you want to be known for? You know, what is the type of work that you want to start doing? And it can even start, like, for example, and I'm going to break this down because I know everyone is in a different path. So for anyone who's starting in their first semester, right, just taking like core classes, really trying to figure out, you know, their areas of concentration, all you can really start doing right now is just doing a career inventory of like, these are the current skill set that I have gained so far. Right? Kind of doing a column on that. Then you're doing another column, and I'm saying column, like literally take a piece of paper and just write a line and you'll have columns, or do it on Word. But having the second column and identifying, you know, things that interest you, whether like, wow, I really want to work with children and families, or I really want to work in the hospital setting, or I really want to work in government, things that excite you, because obviously once you get to a placement, hopefully you can, you know, explore any of those areas, right? You want to start building the foundations now. Now, for someone who has already identified, you know, the area of concentration, again, whether it's clinical, whether it's macro, you also want to start also doing the same thing. Okay, these are the current skill set that I have, and these are the specific areas of practice that I want to be a part of. For example, clinical, maybe I want to work in private practice once I graduate. Maybe I want to work in the hospital, whether I want to work in mental health tech, etc. And macro as well. Maybe I want to work, you know, in government. Maybe I want to work in the state. Maybe I want to work, you know, you also want to start thinking about like the different areas of practice, because what I want you all to start doing, and again, the same concept will go if you're about to graduate. Obviously, by the time that you graduate, you have already done placement. So you'll either have a little bit of clarity as to at least a population that you want to work in, or you may be like, honestly, I want to do it all. And I'm here to tell you that it's okay. I don't want it. Again, don't let school put you in a box. Like, I don't want you all to feel like, I have to pick between children and adults. I have to pick between, you know, hospital and school. Like, you can literally do it all. But in order to help you all gain clarity and even have awareness as to what will be your next path, and of course, part of your personal brand, is really sticking to your own core values, in the sense of like, again, what are your unique strengths, right? Like, if you're someone that, wow, I really enjoy facilitating workshops, boom, you know that that's going to be part of your personal brand, regardless of what role you step into or population or area of practice you decide to work in, right? And again, and you're probably thinking like, well, how can I find this information? Start with what you know. Don't worry so much about the things that you don't know, the things that you don't have, because trust me, it's going to drive you crazy. Everything else will come like within time, right? Because here's the thing, when it comes to building your personal brand and marketing, you have to also step into your own areas of expertise, right? Like you have to be able to step into, like, because confidence sells, right? So if you are interviewing for a placement, they're going to be like, why are you interested in this placement? You're not going to just be like, I just need an internship. You're going to really have to be able to identify, like, what about this placement aligns with your own mission or your reason for getting into social work, right? Like, all of your reasons and all of your why, that's all part of your personal brand. So what I really want you all to start highlighting, again, is just really doing a career inventory of where you are right now, utilizing your resume, reminding yourself of the personal statement essay that you wrote to get into graduate school. Maybe you need to do a refresher and like, what did I write? Like, what was the question? They probably asked, again, why social work? Lean into that. Because here's the thing, in those moments of uncertainty, in those moments that you don't know, you're going to rely on what you do know, right? Your why, your mission, your vision, right? So again, if you're interviewing for a placement, if you're interviewing for a job and you haven't worked, again, with kids or done grant writing, whatever it is, you're going to lean in with that why and that mission. You know, I don't have experience working with X, Y, and Z, but I believe in this and I want to be able to be a part of that change. People want someone that has that hunger, that has that drive, that has that commitment. Remember, as an upcoming social worker, no one is looking for you to be a seasoned clinician and have the same knowledge of all of those modalities. So I always hear, again, from students of like, okay, once I graduate, I'm going to make sure that I take this course and, you know, get this license, and then I'll be marketable to get the job that I want. And of course, I do want to say that in some situations, like I mentioned, you do need specific skill set, and you do need obviously licensure, right? Like I mentioned, hospital jobs nowadays, even though sometimes they'll provide you with a limited permit. But again, in order for you to even get there, you first have to lean in with your strengths. That's all you have, and no one can ever take that away. When it comes to your strengths, when it comes to your why, your vision, no one can ever take that away. Ooh. Now, obviously, I know at the beginning, I threw the word LinkedIn, which I know for some of you are like, LinkedIn, I'm good. I'm not trying to go on that platform. I don't want to be seen. I don't want to do any of that. And I know it's absolutely scary. And I'm here to tell you guys a couple of things. So I already started speaking about, identifying your personal brand. I already started identifying, some of the things that, you want to be known for. Now, when it comes to LinkedIn, LinkedIn is a networking professional platform. It is not Facebook. It is not Instagram. It is not TikTok. It is a platform for you to go there with an intention of a particular outcome. Whether you want to go on LinkedIn to get a job, whether you want on LinkedIn to find placement, whether you want LinkedIn to find a mentor. Like, let me tell you all, I've been actively on LinkedIn. If you're not on LinkedIn, definitely connect with me. We'll put the handles at the end. But I want you all to also, if you already have LinkedIn, put it in the chat. I want you all to connect with one another. You don't know who's in this Zoom room. The next person in the Zoom room could be, your future colleague, your future supervisor. Like, you just never know, right? So at the end of the day, you have to be able to use each other as a resource, because at the end of the day, somebody knows somebody. But going back to LinkedIn, and throughout the next slides, I'm going to break down how to market yourself on LinkedIn, how to build a profitable LinkedIn profile, how to, network effectively, how to craft an elevator pitch using LinkedIn. Again, y'all, this is a lot of information. This is being recorded for anyone who's coming in. We will get into Q&A, towards the end. I'll make sure to, I'm just looking at time. I'll make sure to, at least block out, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, depending on time for us to get into Q&A, because I know there'll be a lot of questions. So going back to LinkedIn, again, I hear from students like, why should I be on LinkedIn? I'll just wait until I graduate and then I'll be able to look for a job. You all right now, again, whether this is your first semester, last semester, like, you need to get on LinkedIn. Like, do not sleep on that, because at the end of the day, even if you're just entering your first semester, or even if you don't know what area of practice you want to be in, remember, rely on your unique strengths and rely on your mission, rely on your why. That is all you can do right now. Everything else will flow. Now, when it comes to LinkedIn, and again, the next few slides may not make sense if you have never created a LinkedIn, but the beautiful thing of this being recorded, when you create a LinkedIn, you'll be able to watch this step by step, and this will make sense. So for those who are already on LinkedIn, hopefully some of these things are going to make sense. So the first thing, and of course, this has to do with your personal brand, is when you first create a LinkedIn profile, it does everything automated for you. For example, you create a LinkedIn profile, you put your name, you put your school, you put your current employer. If you don't go in there and optimize, it's literally going to leave everything the way it is. Meaning your LinkedIn URL example will say Harleny Vasquez 7QWX, whatever. Like, it'll literally leave it like that. So you have to go in there and edit your public URL to just your name. If you have a common name, add some numbers, whatever you want, because you can always change it. It's not permanent. Because here's the thing. I already mentioned at the beginning of this workshop that I am a recruiter. We do searches on people. Best believe we do. If a candidate comes, my way and I'm like, let me check them if they're on LinkedIn. We definitely, I'm not saying I check for like Facebook and stuff. I don't care about that. I care about LinkedIn, right? So I just want to make sure that you all know that you edit your LinkedIn URL. Now, professional photo. And I say professional photo because that is the first concept that people have in their mind about, oh my God, I need a professional photo shoot to be on LinkedIn. Obviously, the photo that I'm showing, I did have a professional photo shoot. But when I first started on LinkedIn, I had my iPhone, literally took, a selfie, and then that's it. It does not need to be this whole, shebang and professional photo shoot, but show up as you would normally show up, right? If you're someone, you know, that has braids, that has curly hair, that has short, like whatever it is, if you like, however you show up, like from everyday today, I want you to start be able to be your authentic self on LinkedIn. Like, I don't want you also feel like, oh, it needs to be quote unquote professional and be with a blazer. For me, I always rock blazers, obviously. But in general, like if you're someone that don't normally wear blazers, you don't have to be on LinkedIn with a blazer. I'm just trying to say is just be your authentic self. But definitely put a photo in there. So also do not put a crop photo. Again, selfie all the way. You know, no with filters as well. I've seen some people that, you know, like Snapchat filters, like trust me, I've seen a lot. It's just not professional. Just take a, you know, a regular selfie, whether it's on your, you know, computer, anything that you can do. Now, going back to LinkedIn, right? LinkedIn is a search engine, as I mentioned. So you want to make sure that you, again, going back to optimize everything. Now, your headline, for those are like, what the heck is a headline? A headline is, let's say you created a LinkedIn platform and you put, you know, that you're a student at Fordham. Then if you don't edit that, then it'll say student at Fordham. So going back to LinkedIn is a search engine, and I'm going to help you all really identify like your headline, right? So for example, in your headline, and by the way, if you already found me on LinkedIn, please don't compare my LinkedIn profile to what your LinkedIn profile should be. I am a recruiter. I am an entrepreneur. So obviously there's a lot that I have, but don't worry, towards the end, I will also show you briefly Karina and Gabriella's LinkedIn profile, so you all can have a sense of like a current student in placement, you know, working and all that stuff. So you can see an example of what that will look like. But going back to, you know, your headline, it should identify who you are right now. If you're a social work student, again, in your last semester, for example, Karina is about to graduate this semester. So in her headline, she can put MSW candidate, because she's, you know, on the road to getting her degree come May. So if you're entering your last semester, you can definitely put MSW candidate or BSW candidate. But if you're currently, you know, still first semester, second semester, then you will put social work student or BSW student, MSW student. And if you want to identify yourself as a first gen, you know, identify, you know, BIPOC, however you identify yourself, Latinx, like you're more than welcome to also share that as well. Because here's the thing, and you may not think so, but going back to LinkedIn as a search engine, if I'm like, you know what, I want to connect to other like first gen, you know, individuals, and I write first gen in the search engine, I'm going to get a whole bunch of people that have first gen identified, you know, in their headline or in their profile. Remember, LinkedIn is a search engine like Google. Now, another thing, and again, who you help and how you help them, I know that may seem very intimidating if you're like, I have no idea what I want to do, and that's okay. If you are currently, again, in your first semester, but you know, wherever you go after you get your degree, you're very passionate about enhancing the well-being of others, right? Very general, of course, but you can lean in on that. That's your mission. Social work student on a mission to enhance the well-being of others through psychoeducation, whatever. Let's say you love doing workshop facilitation. There's no right and there's no wrong. At the end of the day, is if someone goes to your profile, it should be like, who is this person? What are the interests? You know, what are their goals? You have to kind of think about if it was like a cover letter, just a little bit more personal. If you're currently like, I know what I want to do. I want to be a hospital social worker. I want to work in inpatient oncology with children. Then you say that. Social work student or MSW candidate, you know, could with a focus on working, you know, in pediatric oncology and so on, right? You're kind of being very specific, because as a recruiter, if I go to your page, I'm like, oh yeah, this person is interested in, you know, pediatric oncology and so on. And again, if you're like, I want to work with all population, I don't have a specific niche is what they call, then lean in on your overall goal. Again, why do you come into social work? What is the type of change that you're hoping to implement? You can also lean on that. And again, y'all, I know I'm saying a lot, but we'll get into questions. Alrighty, so I already went over, obviously optimizing your URL, photo, your headline. Now your summary, which is your about me section, is an opportunity. Again, you don't have to be like vulnerable. You don't have to, share your whole life story. Again, and I'm saying that because for me, remember, y'all, I'm an entrepreneur, I'm a content creator. Like, I love sharing my story and I feel comfortable doing that. For you all, you do not need to do that. You could simply say, like, I'm passionate about social work because, my goals are this, or I hope to, let's say you're about to graduate. I'm looking for this type of role in this area, once I graduate. You are just highlighting your goals, your vision, your mission, that your areas of expertise, as I mentioned at the beginning of the workshop, highlighting your unique skills. Right? Because your LinkedIn profile is always going to evolve, because at the end of the day, your goals are always going to change, just like you, just like your personal brand, just like your LinkedIn profile. And of course, if let's say you're currently like in honor society, you can, and any projects that you're involved in, like this is an opportunity, to highlight all of those things that you're working on. And when I mean include a call to action is, if you're currently are not on the road to graduating yet, then you can just put at the end of your bio, let's connect. If you are currently like, I'm about to graduate and I'm looking for a school social work position, come May, then you will include that. I'm looking for a school social work position, come May, and you can put your email address. Of course, if you are in a position, because I know some people may be employed and they're like, I don't want my employer to know that I'm looking for a job, then you don't have to be that specific. You can still say, let's connect. Trust me, recruiters will still reach out to you. I'm just saying, like, it won't hurt if you do that. Now, another thing I want to mention is, of course, your experience section. So this is where you go ahead and put all of your experience, internship experience, volunteer experience. Again, it should mirror your resume. But here's the thing. Obviously, in this workshop, I'm not going to be talking about resumes, but I am going to share key points that obviously you should mirror on your resume. When you talk about your experience and you describe your duties, please quantify them. You should be able to paint a story, because here's the thing, not everyone knows the agency that you worked in or did your placement in. Not everyone, even as a recruiter, yes, obviously I'm a social worker and a recruiter, but most recruiters are not licensed social workers. They're not clinicians. They're not going to know, even though they should be, but they're not, some of the time they're not going to know, like, wait, is this a social worker? Oh, this is what they do. So you want to be able to be as clear as possible. For example, what population are you work with? Like, what is the age range? And again, I'm going to give examples of very clinical examples. So let's say you're, clinical placement and all those things, or you've worked, in general. You want to be able to identify the population you worked with, like ages. Do they have a specific diagnosis? The type of setting that you worked in. If you wrote notes, how many notes you wrote a day? If you did home visits, how many home visits you did a week? Like, you're literally highlighting, specifically quantifying the things that you have done. If you're currently in a leadership role, if you're a supervisor, how many staff do you oversee? Were they bachelor level? Were they, master level? Whatever it is. Even if you had a macro placement, you want to make sure that you are very clear in explaining, like, someone who has no idea what this organization is, you want to be able to paint a story, because that's also going to help you in an interview kind of explain, like, this is what I've done, this is a population I worked with and settings and so on. And of course, adding your education, any trainings that you have, held so far. And then, oh, my bad, y'all. And then, of course, skills and endorsement. So and mind you, y'all, when you have a LinkedIn profile literally in front of you with this workshop, is all going to make sense, because it's literally one after the other. And I'll show you all at the end. But skills, again, you have to add 50 skills in order to get your LinkedIn profile to be an all-star. And you should get your profile to be an all-star, so that your profile can come up in searches. Another thing I want to mention is, you're probably thinking, like, Harleny, what skills to add? I have no idea. Going back to what I said before, looking at your resume and literally, like, whether you do it literally handwritten or on Word, highlighting your unique skill set or areas of expertise. For example, case management can be a skill. Workshop facilitator can be another skill. Children, and families is literally another skill, like areas of concentration, grant writing, right? Like interviewing, motivational interviewing, different modalities. Even if you learned it in internship, I always hear all the time, like, well, I'm not a CBT expert. You still have knowledge, you still have awareness. Remember, for new upcoming grads, no one is looking for you to be at a level of a seasoned clinician. So give yourself some grace. But again, all of these things you can also start identifying. If let's say you already have a job description for an internship that you want to apply to, skim through that job description, same things for a job, and really, have your resume, have the job description, and be like, okay, this is an area of concentration. Do I have experience in that? Actually, I do. And let me add it. And you also want to mirror. That is how you make your profile marketable and how you're able to appear in searches when recruiters or hiring managers look for you. And then last but not least, recommendations. So this is something that professors, mentors, supervisors and placements can give you a recommendation. It's kind of like references. It's something that I highly recommend for you all to start doing as of now. Now, the next thing I'm going to be mentioning is crafting your elevator pitch. And you're probably thinking, what the heck is an elevator pitch? So an elevator pitch can come up in different things, right? It's an opportunity for you to showcase your unique skills, market it yourself. It's kind of like the professional bio on LinkedIn, as I mentioned before, the About Me section. This elevator pitch usually comes up if you're like DMing someone on LinkedIn and they're like, tell me about yourself. Boom, you insert that pitch, and I'll show you all how to do that in a little bit. And the elevator pitch is also an opportunity for you to have it drafted during an interview. Tell me about yourself, which I know is a dragging question. It's great for you to have an elevator pitch drafted. Now, an elevator pitch, again, very similar to your LinkedIn headline, is identifying, I am currently a social work student. I am very passionate about working, with children and families, dealing with complex trauma and underserved communities. Obviously, I'm being very specific. I'm very passionate about, uplifting and elevating, my community, whatever it is. I'm just rambling here. But that's what makes you you, right? Again, going back to your personal brand is, again, a unique personal statement of who you are, but aligning with your own mission and goals. As of now, it could change next semester. It can change in a year. Because like I said, personal brand will always be evolving. And when I say accomplishments, it can be, let's say you co-facilitated a workshop for, adolescents dealing with eating disorders. Let's just say that. Then that can be an accomplishment. Another accomplishment, let's say you, submitted proposals and grants, to get specific proposals for funding for the community. That's an accomplishment. So again, it really has to do with, remember, one thing I really want you all to walk away is, how do I get comfortable with owning everything that I've done so far? Because remember, I don't want you all to be focused on the things that you don't have, because when you're networking, when you're building your personal brand, when you're attending interviews, you have to hone in on your current skills. Obviously, there's always opportunity to grow and to learn. No one's looking for a know-it-all, but you have to be comfortable and confident in saying, like, you know what, this is what I've gained and so far and the tools that I have right now, but I want to learn. You know what I mean? It's all going to come naturally, of course. But the last thing I also want to say is that you need to be able to tie it to the role. Now, this particular example is only if you're like making outreach to someone on LinkedIn, a hiring manager, a recruiter, and you're going to apply to the position. You want to make sure that you connect the dots, meaning that the role that you're applying to, if they're working with children and families and all of those things in the school setting, then your elevator pitch is not going to be like adults and working in the shelter system, because that's totally unrelated. They need to be able to connect, because one thing at the end of the day, whether it's an internship placement, job placement, is an investment. They need to ensure, like, as a recruiter, if I'm screening someone and they're talking about X, Y, and Z, and I'm focused on A, then I'm like, okay, this person does not align with what we're looking for, because I'm looking for this and they're talking about this. It needs to always align. Another thing I want to mention is that again, this is very tailored to me, obviously as a career coach, but I wanted you all to visually see what I will write. Let's say I wanted to, work with a social work score, MASW, right? I'm a career coach helping social workers interview with the confidence and last their dream job using LinkedIn. That's who I am. That's what I do. Now, what is my why? One of my greatest passion is to provide social workers with the different tools and techniques to be able to enhance their confidence level, job search strategies, et cetera, et cetera. What's my uniqueness? Well, in addition to career strategy, I obviously focus on mindset, helping the social workers overcome, imposter syndrome and give them the tools they need to be able to love themselves within. And of course, goals and call to action. Again, that is tailored to me, but I just wanted to show you all like where you can kind of plug and play the same thing for you all. I'm a student, I'm passionate about this, I want to be able to do this, but this is all within the realm of where you are in your journey today, not where you want to be. Everything is marketable. Now, building your network on LinkedIn. Okay, so I know, y'all, I'm saying a lot. And again, I hope as I'm going, questions are coming in the chat because I know I see little, numbers. I don't know what the conversation is, but I hope they're questions. If not, I will make sure questions are asked. But okay, building your network on LinkedIn. Let's say you already, you already identify your unique skills. You already identify like your vision, your mission. If you have areas of expertise, and areas of practice that you want to work on, or whether you're like, I want to do it all. That's okay. I'm multi-passionate. I've done it all. There's no right and there's no wrong. It's whatever feels in alignment to you. But once you've done that, then the way you go on LinkedIn, again, LinkedIn is a networking professional platform. So in order for you to build your network on LinkedIn for you all is obviously to be able to get a job, right? Like once you graduate. So even if you're in your first semester and you have awareness of like, again, I know I keep going to the same clinical route, but I'm just for the theme of this presentation, but it's the same thing. Again, if you have like a, you want to work for a specific, national organization, to create like policies, it's the same concept. Let's say you already have an area identified. Then in order for you to start building your network is go on LinkedIn and research those keywords and see what are the companies that are coming up with the particular roles that I'm interested in. What are the particular titles that are coming up when I search, right? Because there can be so many. So, for example, let's say you want hospital social work. Then when you do your research, you search on the search bar, then a whole bunch of hospitals, let's say you put hospital in New Jersey and so on, a whole bunch of social work hospitals in New Jersey will come up and you'll see who works there. Then you'll be able to reach out to a medical social worker in the hospital and say, hey, my name is, I am a current social work student, interested in hospital social work. I see that you work for ABC Hospital. I would love to connect to learn more about your experience. That's it. You are sending a connection request message because you want to learn more about their experience. Now, here's the thing. When you're reaching out to people, you have to protect your energy. Here's the thing. Most social workers obviously will give you time. And there's just someone is like, you may think like, oh, they're on LinkedIn, they're going to make time for you. Sometimes they're like, don't bother me. But at the end of the day, not me, obviously. I always welcome DMs and I love voice notes. But in general, protect your energy. If there's someone that's not going to respond or just not going to give you the time of day, then you're on to the next person. You want someone that's going to give you, that time of day, right? At the end of the day, you're looking for information and gaining insight. And the same concept will be if, let's say, you apply to a job and you know that they work in the same department, you can also do the same thing. They're called informational interviews. Now, one other thing I want to mention is on LinkedIn. Again, if you're not on LinkedIn, once you get on LinkedIn, it's going to make sense. Next to people's names, you're going to start finding different numbers, like 1, 2, 3. If let's say, okay, Karina and Gabriela, us three were first degree connections to each other because we physically went, sent a connection request, and we're all connected. Now, let's say Karina and I were not connected, but Gabby was connected with Karina. Then Karina will be second degree connection to me because she's connected with Gabby. Third connection is that nobody, like they're like out of left field, like no one in my network is connected with that person. And you just have to, at the end of the day, not saying that you should shy away from third degree connection. It's just you don't have anybody in your network that can have that introduction. But let's say like Karina's a second degree connection to me. And let's say she was a hiring manager or colleague at like my dream organization. Then, sorry, I was going to say it's one thing. So then I will ask for an introduction. I'll be like, hey, Gabby, I see that you're connected, with Karina. She's the director, at this hospital. Would you mind, introducing us so I can learn more about a potential opportunity in that organization? Use your network, which is why I said earlier for everyone to follow each other on LinkedIn, just because you never know the future. And you never know who's connected with who, right? It could be somebody's neighbor, the director of a company or something. But going back to how to continue networking on LinkedIn is, again, you don't only have to search social workers. You can definitely look at bigger, lawyers and, attorneys, like the helping profession, because again, somebody knows somebody, right? And it's really about just engaging with them if they create content. By you being on LinkedIn does not mean you need to create content. That's one thing I want you all to know, because I know it's intimidating as hell. And it's really about, again, focusing on how can I make my LinkedIn profile marketable. So if someone goes to my page, they understand where I'm at, where I want to be, my areas of expertise, or the things I want to learn. And then you could do everything behind the scenes. I mean, everything behind the scenes of like finding people, sending them connection requests. Doesn't mean you got to get on a call or a Zoom call. You can do things that feel in alignment to you. If you're like, I just want to be in the DMs and get information, I'm not trying to get on a Zoom call, even though I always try to challenge students that I speak to, like, push yourself a little. I know it's scary, but trust me, it's all going to help. These are just people. I also want you all to know, like, when you do informational chats with other social workers, I understand where it can be intimidating with a hiring manager or recruiter, but when it's just a different social worker, they wear your same shoes. Recently, years ago, it's just a conversation. And then last but not least, like I mentioned, informational interviews are literally what I mentioned before, making that outreach connection and, letting them know, you want to connect with them to learn insights and, just build a professional relationship and just really learn more about their insight. And it can look like, hey, Harleny, wow, I see that you're a social work career coach and, you're an entrepreneur. I would love to connect with you and learn more about, what's it like to be, starting your own business. Like, it's literally the same concept. You're going in there with intention and you're being mindful of what you're doing on LinkedIn. Because if you're not intentional and you don't go there with a plan, you're just going to be there scrolling. It's going to be like Facebook. It's going to be like Instagram. You're going to spend hours and hours and you're not going to get anywhere. You're going to get burned out. So I want to avoid that. So y'all, obviously, I know I said a lot, but like I said, the goal is to get visible. Your personal brand is who you are. I want you all to start getting comfortable of where you are in your current journey right now. Don't get so fixated on where you want to be. Not saying you all can have goals and, have a vision, but I just want you to also, again, give yourself grace and just, be able to embrace your current challenges as lessons. So now, y'all, we got 30 minutes left. Woo, okay, because I wanted to make sure that we have, opportunities for Q&A. So at this time, y'all, if possible, please turn your cameras on if you can, just for us to, chat, go over questions, for me to go over anything, because I know I said a lot. So I'm gonna, take a water break and hopefully see some of your beautiful faces.
We have 2 questions in the chat. So yes. Lisa's is, if we're switching careers, do we leave in our experience from our previous career, or just cater the profile to solely social work related content?
Yes, I love that question. And thank you to you all that just turn your camera on, makes it more personable and all those things. So great question. So here's the thing. that particular career path, you went in there for a reason. That is a part of you, right? Because that particular journey led you into social work. What I mentioned before, that we're human, our goals always evolve, and that's okay. I don't want you to discredit, the experience that you had before social work. I always seen, I get resumes and I'm like, this is all your experience. And they're like, no, I used to be, example, Gabby, I'm gonna use you. I used to be a teacher. I was in the military, like whatever it is, like don't discredit that experience, because there's so many transferable skills that you learned in those organizations. Like if you were a manager for Target, you know how many skills you learn being a manager, even if you only oversaw 5 to 10 people. Like there's just so many skills, because skills are transferable. So please don't discredit your previous experiences. All of that led you into your social work journey. It actually shows how committed you are. I've met people who were in the fashion industry and got into social work. I met people who were, again, in the food industry and got into social work, who were in business and got into social work, nurse and got into social work. Like, don't discredit your experiences, because I'm sure there's just so much that you all learned. So again, be your biggest hype. Like at the end of the day, those are all of your experiences. It's a great question. Keep them coming. You can put it in the chat. You can unmute yourself. We got 30 minutes.
I did write down some of the questions that was earlier in the chat, because I realized that people were dropping their LinkedIn links and I didn't want us to have to scroll back. So I don't know who said this particularly, but someone wanted to know, how can they get started on LinkedIn?
Great question. So get started by optimizing your LinkedIn profile. And if that seems very overwhelming, because you're like, if you're currently in a stage where, again, like I mentioned before, I don't know what I want to do. I don't know, what I want to be known for and all those things. You definitely have a why, though. Like why you got into this field, right? You got into, or whether you change career, like whatever that reason was, like that is where you start, right? If things are a bit complicated and you're like, okay, maybe this is a bit personal, maybe it was like a health reason, whatever it was, and you're like, I don't want nobody to know that, then lean in on the things that interest you right now. Like, I hope once I graduate, to work with X, Y, and Z. Your LinkedIn profile, the best thing that you could all do is literally have your resume, look at everything you've done so far, even if you only volunteer, and be like, you know what, I'm going to grab this skill set, I'm going to grab this, and just put it on your LinkedIn profile. But just start. Because I know that's the hardest thing to start, because we have to think like everything has to be with a bow and I have to have these keywords. Like it can be overwhelming, but trust me, the more exposure you will all get, whether it's through internship or once you all, graduate, you'll continue to add to things. And again, towards the end, I'm going to show you all how Gabriela and Karina's LinkedIn profile looks. So you all can see it's literally simple. It does not need to be this, again, like me, if you check me out, because I know mine can be very intimidating, it does not have to be a whole life story. It's just literally like, I'm interested in social work. Again, it could be cliche. I want to help people. I want to, I want to enhance or systems and, whatever it is. I want to implement policies. It could be very short and sweet. Keep them questions coming.
Thank you. And if I asked your question, you could jump in if you want to expound a little bit more. I just took the meat out of it. The next question we have is, what can we do to appeal to employers and recruiters?
Absolutely. Okay, so I'm assuming that question is for once you graduate, or you currently meaning like, okay, once you graduate. So it's literally the same concept. So I already spoke about, again, marketing yourself on LinkedIn with highlighting your skills. As a recruiter myself, I've been recruiting for the past 6 years or so. What I'm looking for is pure alignment. So if you have a job already identified, you're like, boom, I want to work in this area. You have to ensure that your resume, your LinkedIn profile aligns with the current job that you are trying to obtain. And not saying that you're going to lie about your skills, but you're literally checking, right? Again, like I said before, if you are applying to a job working, with a particular population and you don't have experience with that population, then if it's not on your resume or your LinkedIn profile, you need to give some insight as to like reassurance that you can work with this population, right? I always say, and one thing I heard from a client that I worked yesterday, she only has experience with children and families, and she wants to work with adults. So she had fear that she's like, I've never worked with adults. I'm not gonna be able to apply to a position. And I was like, well, even though you don't have direct experience working with adults, working with children and families, you had exposure. Working with children, you had exposure to systems, you had exposure to providers, you had exposure to parents. Those are a lot of transferable skills. And same thing with doing assessments, doing community outreach. All of those core skills are going to be transferable into working with adults. And I'm not just saying that to say that as a recruiter. I personally, again, I've worked in the fields for many years, and I was able to pivot from children to families to social services to tech. I work in tech now, as I mentioned, and I've never worked in tech before. It was nonprofit. Sorry, my allergy. Nonprofit for 10 years. And again, the biggest thing is that, and I know maybe go a little off topic, but I just want you all to show you all about like the transferable. In nonprofit, for those who know, I'm not saying on nonprofit I like this, but most nonprofit are fast-paced environment. Policies are always changing. Crises sometimes are high. In tech, especially startup companies, are the same way. Fast-paced environment. Policies are always changing. You have to be able to be adaptable. You have to be able to be, a team player. So that is how you adapt to your current environment or your current experience to the experience that you're trying to be a part of. So you have to be very strategic. You can't just be like, I'm going to spray a whole bunch of resumes to a whole bunch of organizations and get lucky. You have to be very strategic, especially as a student. If you're going to be going into your last semester now or come later this year, you have to be very strategic, because right now the job market is very competitive, and unfortunately, layoffs and the recession, inflation, and so on. And I'm not saying that to scare any of y'all. I'm saying that like this is the time to be on LinkedIn. You cannot rely on applications to get a job or get an opportunity. It always comes down to who you know. I hope that answered your question.
I hope it answered their question. Savannah did just drop a question in the chat. She said, can you talk a bit about where you draw the line between authentic and overly casual regarding the tone and language of the LinkedIn's user's bio?
Great question. I'm going to address that real quick, but I just saw another question. Jokari actually said this, so I don't want to ignore their question. How do you find your niche, and how do you find your dream career? So one thing I want to mention about this, and again, for anyone who came late, definitely listen to this recording, because I kind of share a little bit about my journey where I started medical social work and got into recruiting and all that stuff. But here's the thing. Right now, school, they try to put you in a box with like clinical, macro, as I mentioned before. And right now, that may be your area of concentration, and that is fine. But I want you all to know that, quote unquote, your dream job is going to be in a place where all of your non-negotiables align. And I mean non-negotiables in the sense of like, and again, right now, some of these things may not make sense because some of y'all may not know what your non-negotiables are, but I'm going to give a couple examples. For me, I'm an entrepreneur. So for me, my non-negotiables is to be fully remote. I work fully remote. I know some people that have kids, they have to be able to have a very flexible schedule. So that is their non-negotiable. Another thing can be is that vacation time. I need vacation time, or I need excellent benefits, or, medical, vision, and dental, because I have, health concerns to attend. That's what I mean, your non-negotiables. Being in a diverse environment, that's also my non-negotiable. Again, currently being Latina, right? Like at the end of the day, there's no handbook, as I mentioned, what non-negotiable should look like. It needs to align with the things that are important to you. And this is something, as you continue to progress in your career, your non-negotiables will adapt, right? Same thing, like, for example, and no shame for anyone who works in foster care, but I worked in foster care for 4 years. And unfortunately, at that time, supervision was not what it should have been. Poor supervision, no work-life balance, high burnout. So from that experience, I learned moving forward, these are the core things that I'm looking for in my next supervisor. That is part of my non-negotiables. Like supervision is of the essence. So As you are going to be progressing into a new role once you graduate or progressing into placement, pay attention to the things that you truly love and pay attention to the things that just do not align with you. That is what I mean by non-negotiables. And that is how you're going to find your dream career. Again, going back to, you have to give yourself grace in this field because you are allowed to change your goals. You are allowed to change the area of concentration, area of practice that you are in. Going back to, I started with children and families, and now I work basically as a recruiter, right? At the end of the day, you can truly do it all. It's really about, there's going to be two people in our field. And I hope you all will be this group. There's going to be this group. It's like, I'm a clinical social worker. I have to get my license. I'm going to be a hospital social worker. And if not, I'm a failure. And I'm just saying it is because I thought that same way. There's going to be the other group, which I hope will be you all. It's like, you know what? I literally have to go with the flow. Not saying I'm not going to have a vision, not saying that you can be a hospital social worker and get your license. But if for any reason that's not the journey that's meant for you at this time, I'm not telling you how to give up, so please don't quote me. I'm just trying to say is that don't be afraid to keep an open mind and ask yourself, what are other things in the area of social work that I can do with my current skill set? Because the moment you get into, like, again, going back to licensure, and I'm not saying that's going to happen to you all, but I passed on my 5th try, and not saying it's going to happen to you all, but for me, I passed on my 5th try when I let go of expectations, when I let go of trying to check off a box, when I let go of just, really doubting myself. At the end of the day, I went into the exam and I was like, you know what, Harleny, you've done this multiple times. If this is your journey, if it's meant to be, then it'll be. But at the end of the day, I'm a supervisor. I'm doing this, right? So that's what I'm trying to come away of, that your dream job is, you're going to know this is your dream job without knowing it. I know that's not really much clarity for you all, but I hope. Okay, so now going really back to Lisa's question. I mean, I hope everyone knows I'm very passionate and I could talk about this all night. So please keep these questions coming. So are there tools you can run? I think I can answer this question. Let me see. Are there tools you can recommend to help us identify our values, our non-negotiables? Sometimes you don't think of something until you're too deep into find the job. Great question. So honestly, this has to do with doing a career inventory. A career inventory is what I mentioned about looking at your resume, even if it was like, again, that you were in high school, whatever it was, and think about every single experience that you have held. How you were hired, how were you onboarded, how did people treat you in that organization? Like literally do an assessment, use your social work skills, do an assessment of all of the roles that you held and literally create a list. That is how you're going to identify your non-negotiables. That is how you're going to identify your core values. I can tell you what core values to identify because only you know your life, only you know what matters to you. And that's what I mean about there's no social work handbook, because the beautiful thing of our degree is that we can literally work anywhere, literally anywhere that we want. And even though our profession will say, no, you can't do that. You got to go this or you got to go that. And I'm telling you all that, yes, that's fine. If you have to obviously identify a concentration to graduate, but I don't want that to define who you are as a social worker. Like, I don't want you to be like, I'm a clinic. Like, again, I started clinical, I'm a licensed social worker, and nowhere I'm doing private practice or having, therapy. I just want you all to really embrace the journey that you're in. And, just don't be hard on yourself. If, hey, I hope that if you commit to something and it works out and that's your dream job and, go for it. But if for any reason you realize like things are no longer in aligned, it's okay too. It doesn't make you any less of a social worker. It doesn't make you any less of a person. Oh, thank you. Any other questions? Like, if anybody want unmute yourself as well.
I think we have Savannah's question. We just to get to it, like, can you talk a bit about Carly?
Oh, Savannah. Okay. Oh, can you talk a bit about where you draw the line between authentic and overly casual? Oh, I want you all to literally follow me on LinkedIn. Obviously, for me, I'm my authentic self. But LinkedIn is not that place, like I mentioned, with the suit and tie. Like, people curse. there. Like people are literally just raw. Like there's at the end of the day, your personal brand, let me give you an example. If you are someone, I mean, I'm not saying obviously you're not gonna be cursing at work, but I'm just trying to say it's like, however you want to show up on LinkedIn should be the same way that you want to show up in your job, right? In any space where you're gonna feel safe to be yourself, because you shouldn't have to be like, show up a type of way to be able to fit in. Like when I say I am raw. Like I'm not saying everyone needs to be like me, but I am a huge extrovert, as you all don't realize. Like I am just like a very like perfect example. So as I mentioned, obviously I'm a huge extrovert. I'm always happy. I'm always smiling. For some people, they find that intimidating. I literally have been told this, like, why are you so happy? Or I literally have been told in an interview, it's like in the past, and obviously they were in alignment. But people, because obviously I'm a millennial, and this is another thing, people will be like, oh, you're just a young social worker. What do you know? I've gotten that question as well, right? I've gotten things in interviews about like, are you just going to come in and be this happy going person, like acting like everything's okay? Like they literally said that. And right away I was like, no, it's not the place for me, because I don't want to feel that I can't be my authentic self. Mm-hmm. At the end of the day, this is who I am on an everyday today, like literally a natural cheerleader. That's just my personality. Not saying you all have to be like that. But on LinkedIn, again, just show up as you. Like, again, I want you all to follow me because I am connected with a lot of people. And I'm just saying that, like, not saying like my content specifically, but you'll be able to see like things I like of other people. And they're just themselves. Like when they say, I mean, we are, what is it? Change agents, right? At the end of the day, only we social workers understand our profession, right? Again, there's just so much stigma. There's always going to be someone trying to dim your light. Like, I get messages all the time. I just delete them. I just block them. Like, protect your energy. You want to make sure that your next role, you're able to be yourself. Is what I'm trying to say. So, just be yourself. Oh, thank you, Lorraine. That was so sweet. Yeah, there's some people trying to dim your light. It's like, bye, Patricia. Like, no, like at the end of the day, and one thing too is like in our profession, again, we can't solve everybody's problem. Obviously, there's gonna be people that are really miserable, seasoned social workers that are like been 20 years and they're just miserable and they don't want to retire, and they're always gonna be like, what do you know, or whatever. Like, again, I've gotten that so many times, and if I would have sat there, wait, and like let their energy carry on to what I want to do, I wouldn't be where I am today. So as you are getting ready to graduate or graduate a couple of years, there's always going to be someone talking I don't want to curse, talking, about us social workers, trying to dim our light, saying like, why you got into social work? Y'all don't make money. Like, I've heard it all, which is why I want you all to know is that you got into this profession for a reason. This is a beautiful profession. I would do it over again, even if I knew that I had to take so many, times with like licensure, but I would do it all again. I just want you all to, be able to embrace your journey and have fun, because again, like, y'all want tech, y'all can get into tech. Y'all want corporate, y'all can get into corporate, government, hospital, school. Like, we are everywhere. We're going to take over. Any other questions? I mean, I would love it. Anyone can come off mute. Obviously, I don't bite. We don't bite. Yeah, quiet. We're not in school. I'm not a professor. I'm not gonna grade y'all. There's no right or wrong. I want you to know there's no such thing as a stupid question, by the way, because I know I get asked that question. Like, I know we have 10 more minutes.
Well, I do have one more question that I took from earlier in the chat, so I'll put that one out there. Someone said, how can I build professional alliances in the social work profession? And I'm guessing on LinkedIn. How do they meet colleagues?
Great question. Okay. So long story short. So as soon as I graduated, sorry, I'm good, I promise. So as soon as I graduated, obviously I got on LinkedIn, but I was just like, oh, LinkedIn, I guess, let me figure this out. So obviously I started my business, Yourevolvedmind, in 2019. Again, I just wanted to help people, resumes, interviews, and all that stuff. I wasn't, I was just starting a platform. But I went on LinkedIn. I was like, you know what? I need to build my social work network. Again, going on LinkedIn with an intention. So what I started doing, and I was like, I know social work has a NASW. So I went NASW. Obviously, I'm in New Jersey now. So, hey, I live in New Jersey, but born and raised in New York. So I went in NASW, New York president. I was like, let me just check who's NASW president. I was like, oh, fellow Latina. First, okay. So I was like, okay, connection, whatever. Social worker. I sent her a message. I was like, hey, name, I'm a new social work grad. I see that you're the president of NASW. I'm looking to get involved, volunteer work. I'm looking to enhance my skills. Little behold, because of that connection, the following year, I ended up running to be for NASW New York for the elections, and I was the committee member for NCLI. Basically, you have to vote and all that stuff, and then I ended up getting elected to co-chair. So if I didn't do that, just putting my name out there, she knew a whole bunch of people. They're like, Harleny, I know Harleny. She's a new social worker. She's passionate about helping other social workers or whatever. And boom, that started to grow. And then she knew another one, which some of y'all may know what I'm about to say, or some of y'all never heard of this. There's also another association called the Latino Social Work Coalition and Scholarship Fund. They grant scholarships to Latinx MSW students. So because she was connected with the president, and I was like, again, at that time, I started building my brand slowly, and I met with the president, and boom, I got voted to be a board member. So I was actually a board member. So mind you, this is all free, obviously, volunteer work. So being on the board, having the opportunity, to just work on different projects and create events, all of that was possible because I decided. And I know it's scary. One thing I want you all to know, best believe I was behind the screen and be like, oh my God, they're going to think I'm a young social worker. Like, what am I doing? They're going to be like, who is this person? Like, all of these doubts came to my mind. I don't want to sit here and tell you that I was like, yeah, I got it. I'm confident. No, I still have limiting beliefs. I still have imposter syndrome. Like, again, follow me. I have a podcast, I have everything. I share my story 24/7. But at the end of the day, you have to take that leap. Best believe, even now, I'll be on LinkedIn. I'm like, should I send it? And I just send it. And I'm like, you know what? You have nothing to lose. At the end of the day, the biggest thing that nobody will ever be able to take away is your social work degree, because it's your investment. You gain all of those tools. And obviously, I don't have it up right now. I gotta put it. But my degree is sitting over there. And at the end of the day, you gotta celebrate yourself, because nobody. Obviously, we all get degrees, but at the end of the day, like, it's a journey. Y'all doing placements for free. Y'all working. Y'all probably have lives. Like, when you think about all of the professions besides nurses and doctors, obviously they have a whole complicated journey, but in general, other professions, they don't do 10 times the work that we do to even get this degree. So you can't, discredit that. So a little TED talk for the night. Wait, it's not you. Thank you, Elaine. No, honestly, I mean, before this workshop, I was like, I'm tired. I have to drink coffee. I gotta, it's Friday Junior, as I always say. But again, I appreciate you all staying here to the very end, listening to me. And again, y'all the future. Y'all gonna kill it. Like, y'all better be connected with me on LinkedIn. And, I'm on Instagram too, and TikTok, Yourevolvedmind. Any other last minute questions, thoughts, concerns?
Well, I just wanted to big up Yokari, because you are in Iceland and it's 1 a.m. So thank you. Thank you for sacrificing sleep to hang out with us.
Wow. I feel so lucky. Wow. I feel important. You see, I got limiting beliefs too. Like, I'm just, again, this is me being my authentic self. And at the end of the day, like, you can all do what I do. There's room for all of us. Like, if you want to be an entrepreneur, start your own business. Like, my DMs are always open, happy to, set up time. But yes, Yokari, get some sleep. Thank you so much for being here. And y'all were amazing. Again, connect with me. Thank you so much for having me today. Again, I can talk about this for hours and hours, but follow me, because so many exciting things are, coming up this year. Yes. But again, I appreciate you all. You're amazing. And again,
Thank you.
thank you for rocking
so
with me to the end. I know it's
much.
late.
Thank
Thank you
you.
so much, Harleny, for just coming and sharing your expertise with us. I know that I'm not the only one who left with notes. So as you guys know, it's been recorded. So I will try to get the recording to you guys sometime next week because it's Friday Junior. And we're going to respect our boundaries that we set up for ourselves. So thank you so much for joining the NASW New Jersey and Delaware chapter and our phenomenal facilitator, Harleny, and Gabriella and Karina for supporting us tonight. And we'll see you next month.
Yes,
Bye.
connect with me on
Yes.
LinkedIn. I'm gonna
Bye.
get some,
Thanks,
start getting
everyone.
some messages from y'all. Like, I was in the workshop. Please send me a message.